Matt is up next. He is in Amarillo, Texas. Hey, Matt, welcome to the EntreLeadership Podcast.
Hi, Dave. Thank you so much for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
I am a pastor in a rural church in the Panhandle area, the Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle area.
Mm-hmm.
And, good area, good people, great work ethics and everything. And I'm pastoring a rural church, and I've got a lot of farmers in my church. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking with them, and I've got farmers who are telling me, look, I love using the Ramsey principles and financial peace and everything for my personal life. I just don't know how to do it in the farming world. So I was curious. I'm just wanting to ask you to talk for a minute about what does it look like to use your principles in the industrial, like in the farming kind of world, or as it can be put, also like a capital intensive business like agriculture.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of capital intensive businesses. The studio that I'm sitting in has got about 27 miles of wire in it and cost me about $2.5 million. So it's capital intensive square footage. So just the same kind of thing. I mean, these stinking computers and cameras and stuff I buy around here. And then as soon as you get them out of the box, they're already obsolete, right? So it's the same kind of process. It's just a little different. But the farming community, I guess it's maybe almost 3 generations ago, abandoned debt-free and went to farm credit, and each year bought a progressively more expensive tractor or combine. And when we're talking about large farms, I mean, we're talking about a piece of equipment, $500,000 or more.
At least, to get started.
Or more.
Yes.
And
correct.
No, I mean, not to get started, but they've got Bluetooth and air-conditioned cabs, and many of them will drive themselves on GPS now. So let's just be clear that this is not your grandpa's tractor, okay? That we're talking about here. Now, so there's a couple things. Is you got to start with the whole idea that this script, this narrative, that you can't be a large farmer without carrying large debt in a capital-intensive thing, is a fairly new script. It was not that way a couple of generations ago. But just like every other area of our culture, the banking industry has gotten their claws into it and made it appear that there's no possible way to buy a house unless you have a mortgage. There's no possible way to run a business unless you have a line of credit. There's no possible way to be a farmer and buy large pieces of equipment, expensive pieces of equipment, and upgrade them every couple of years. You can't exist without carrying these massive amounts of debt. And yet, every time a business of any kind carries debt, it increases risk. And the more debt it carries, the more risk it increases. So if you want to lose a family farm, stay deeply in debt until a crop comes in bad, and then you're gone. It's going to take you out. You're going to be what they call a Chapter 12 bankruptcy, which is a farm bankruptcy. And now you're going to spend the next 4 years of your life just trying to get back on even keel. So the problem with debt in any business scenario or personal scenario for that matter is it destabilizes. It's not a sin, and it's not a Ramsey thing. I've just made it famous because I'm the only one talking about it in the modern world. But it actually comes from the Bible. The borrower is slave to the lender. It comes from grandmother's common sense. Quit buying stuff you can't pay for. But in business, we've gotten very sophisticated about it. But lots and lots and lots of large businesses pay cash as they go, or they don't do it. Now, again, I'm sitting in a building that this studio is in, that a series of buildings on the Ramsey campus that are worth several $100 million. I paid cash for them. How did I do that? All at once because I'm some kind of billionaire? No, a little bit at a time. We built one building, then we built another building, and that was after we bought the land. Then we built the first building, then we built the second building, and now we're finishing up the third building. And all of this has been over 7+ years. and I put everything that I have back into growing my business. I mean, I take a nice salary home, I take a nice income home out of my business, but I've dumped the rest of it into bricks and mortar, putting these things in place because this is capital intensive to own debt-free buildings like this. So it's not like I haven't done this. The first time I did it, Matt, was we didn't have the money to buy the building, so we leased a building and with an option to purchase for 5 years. And the option to purchase was at $5 million. By the time the 5 years ran, the building was worth $16 million, and my option was for $5 million. So the guy that owned it was praying I did not exercise the option. I was praying I could exercise the option. Lord Jesus, please give me the money. This is pretty incredible. I don't want to walk away from this huge equity that has grown while I've got this option tied up. And so we're literally scratching the nickels out of the corner of the couch trying to make sure we get that puppy closed, and we closed it in the last month of that option. But if we had not had the money, we would not have closed because I'm not going to go in debt again. Now, that one worked out. Still own that building, by the way. It's a great piece of rental property now. So all of that roundabout way of saying, how do you practically, tactically run this? Well, to start with, you don't buy the combine from heaven that drives itself when you're broke and in debt. You buy the least piece of equipment that'll get the job done. This is business. Equipment is overhead. Overhead decreases profit. The more I spend on equipment, whether it's in payments or actual dollars, the less profit I make. So I buy the least expensive thing that'll do it. Let me transfer this to something else. Let's say you're running a heating and air company and you have 22 trucks calling on people fixing their heating and air. Okay? Do you buy $85,000 Raptors for your service trucks? Well, crap, no. Of course you don't. You buy the least possible pickup that you can put a toolbox on and that will get to the job and get the job done. Now, as you make more money, can you upgrade your fleet and drive better and better trucks? Sure. But I'll guarantee you this, if you go on a construction site, if you want to find the guy on the construction site, the sub that's making the most money, find the worst truck. That's the guy that's making the most profit. The guy who's driving an $85,000 truck on a construction site is known as an idiot. And he's in debt, and he's got his overhead up for the way he looks. So some of these guys are rationalizing and justifying buying combines that they don't need to do the job. They're buying tractors that they don't need to do the job. And so you can do the job with less, number one. Number two, you can do it with used. And number three, it probably, if you're deep in debt, you got a $400,000 or $500,000 piece of equipment, or a couple of those laying around, depending on the size of the operation. It may take you 4 or 5 years to convert from a debt-driven thing to some used equipment that we're paying cash for and making that process move. It may take a little while to make this move, but it's not easy. The thing that has to happen before you do that is you have to believe that I'm going to be better off 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I'm running this farming operation with good, paid-for equipment, not the fanciest equipment. We're not trying to win the Combine Expo here. We're trying to get the crop out of the field. That's all. If my neighbor is impressed with my truck or my combine, that's not important to me. What matters is, can I do the job? And this is a business. Farming is a business. It runs on a P&L. It runs on mathematics. And you're destabilizing your business when you're staying deeply in debt. Can you run a large farming operation with cash? If I can build these buildings with cash, you can run a farming operation with cash.